Chief Krause, and I am the news editor for the Daily Item. And today we're talking with Ed Thurman and Dick Newton, of classical and English respectively, who played in the 1976 Thanksgiving game. And the winner of that game went on to the Super Bowl. The winner was Lynn Classical. So 7-0. So I will start by asking the both of you, or welcoming you first of all, and asking the both of you a little bit about what you did in that game. Eddie, you can start since you guys won.
Steve, thank you. Well, I remember the game being very hard played, a lot of physicality in that game. I think I made it to early third quarter before my day ended.
And how did your day end?
It ended on a hit from Mark Holy.
Now a Lynn police officer.
That's right. So,
what happened?
just running down the sideline, and I got hit, got a concussion, ended up with 2 black eyes,
Wow.
and so I recall that very well at that point. And Kenny Green came on to help us close out the game.
Dick, what about you?
Well, we were expecting a close game because we didn't score many points that year. These guys were high powered. They had all the Division I guys. So we were hoping to have a close game, and it was. We ended up fumbling on the 4-yard line late in the game. I think you were missing Arthur too. Arthur had hurt his knee, Akers,
Hurt his knee
during the game, but they were very, very good. And we were 0-10 the year before. We didn't win a game, and it was it rejuvenated the school. It was funny. The year before, they threw eggs at us on the stage on the Thanksgiving rally.
Oh, that's
The girls threw the cheerleaders actually turned around and threw eggs at us, and it really uplifted the school. It was a great year for us. I threw 30 passes in the game, and I didn't think I threw 30 passes the entire year.
Oh, and he hit.
Yeah,
We hit like 70% of it.
Yeah, but just short ones because
you went into the game conscious then that you were going to have to air it out a little bit against them.
Yeah, Peter Pedro before the game said if you complete 5 passes, we'll win, and I was I think we're going to have to do a lot more than 5 passes. But, Ray Nestor was the MVP, mainly because he made 30 tackles during the game. I mean, he played a great game. Our defense, the Masons, played great. It was a senior team. It was only me and Jimmy Sappi were the only, and Chris Bione were the only juniors that even get on the field. The rest of them were seniors.
Who had the better defense that year in your estimation?
Well, I would say that we did.
Okay.
And I would say that we did.
Right. But that game, I just recall, we started off the game and we were known for getting out and having long runs. We ran a veer, and so we put you in some compromising positions. We had a couple early runs, and the ball was separated from us. We fumbled the ball, and it wasn't just fumble. Our guys got hit, and they took the ball away from us. And after that, it was just a game of, smash mouth, hard hitting, physical game.
Absolutely.
And going into the game, we had watched English all year, and we knew that the year before they had a difficult year. But from the first game on that season, you could see that they were pounding people. I mean, just physically grinding them up. And Coach Wise said,
"Yeah,
hey,
we were very physical. We weren't. We only ran 6 plays.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all. Right, left, and 2 passes." So when we watch classical, I mean, if you get into the numbers, UCLA, BC, BU for them, and there weren't many guys. A couple guys went on to UMass for us. A couple guys went to someplace in Washington and played. I went to play baseball. I mean, we really didn't have the high-profile players they did, but we were tough. We had a lot of tough guys on the team that loved playing football. That as seniors stepped up. Yeah. And we had a very good year. We were very happy with the year. We were very happy with the position we were in and the build-up and all the fun that went on with it.
Yeah, that week before was
something. It was something. We went out to eat the night before the game at Nandy's. We had a big party, and it was really, really nice. And the thing is, we didn't know the kids from classical, and they didn't know us. It's very different than what it is now. We weren't friends with them. We didn't go to their parties. Eddie Thurman to me was just, I didn't know. I had no idea. I mean, we become friends, but At that time, no idea who he was.
So Washington Street really was a line of demarcation back in
The
the
divide.
Yeah.
You didn't go there, and they never came on our side. I never
didn't go down, knew where they hung out, didn't
Yeah.
go over there at all. You know,
Yeah.
Red Rock, it was like, hey, we're not going over
Yeah.
there. Who's over there? English, forget it. So,
Barry Park for you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was that way
Yeah.
throughout this. Through youth sports, it was that way too. Westland, Papuana, Corbett, and Easton, and you just didn't cross that. You know, where they do now.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Talk a little bit about the build-up to this game, because it was almost like a Super Bowl, the way the build-up was for that game, at least on a local level.
Well, I thought that it started up a couple weeks before. A couple games before that. Well, if they get here, then all the marbles are everything's going to be on the table to go to the Super Bowl. And so that's all you heard throughout the city was the impending English classical game, a classical English game, and the winner would ultimately go to the Super Bowl. And if everything played out, because at that point you only had two teams, they only had one Super Bowl for Division II, and so at that point either you won or you went home.
You went home.
If it was a tie, somebody was going to jump over both of us. And
They didn't have 8 teams making the Super Bowl like they did.
No, and it
now.
was the old Boston Globe Marvin Pave Ames, whatever, I can't remember his first name, rating system.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after the last game, I don't know, I forget who I think we played Salem. You guys had lost to Salem, we had lost to Beverly.
Yeah.
And both not very good teams at that time. And from the last game, the next day, the newspaper guys started coming into the school asking us questions to the point where Billy Hall had to say, you guys can't come during practice. You can come after practice or before when they're just warming up. But it got to the point where it was almost...
We didn't have that problem. Coach
Billy Hall loved it
Coach
because
Washington said no.
but we were happy because we hadn't won a game the year before, and for this, Lynn English was a big deal for us. Billy Hall loved it. To him it was bring them all over, and he was like kind of a showman. He was a lot different than Billy Wise. Billy Wise was more hard nosed, and Billy Hall was more have fun, have a good time, and get with it.
Yeah, that game was kind of a study in contrast between the two coaches.
Yeah.
But, as you alluded, Billy Wise was all business.
Well, he was that way from the very first time we stepped onto campus at Lynn Classical. I mean, from sophomore year on, he asked us when we went, "What do you want to do?" "Go to school. That's our goal." So all those kids, he said, "You come, you work hard, I'll work hard," and that's what he did.
Yeah.
So.
Billy Hall was more gregarious.
Billy Hall was a lot of fun at practice, and he coached Eddie Toner, great, Peter Pedro. We had a nice staff. They made it fun for us, and they worked very hard. We were very happy with what we had for coaches.
What about the touchdown? It was 7-0 Classical win, and Jay Alacudo ended up scoring all the points, right?
He ended up scoring all the points on a little tight end over to the corner.
That we knew they were going to throw.
Right. It was one of our favorite routes. That
we had it during practice. We must have went over it 50 times every day. They're going to throw this. They're going to throw this in. I'm not going to name names, but the person, I would never do that, but the person missed the coverage on the first time they ran it, and he was wide open. It was wide open. And
I'm not arguing.
We all love Jay.
Yeah.
In
a way, he's kind of representative of that era, wouldn't you say? I mean, he stayed with it. He always worked with the kids, and
I would say yeah. Jay was a great friend. Knew him since we were elementary school, and just a good personality, good person.
And I know you got to be friends with him through Powder Puff.
Through Powder Puff, and and before that he worked at English, and I got to know him very well. And Jay's a good guy. Jay was a very good guy.
The rivalry itself, not necessarily Thanksgiving, but your rivalry over the years, it's never really consistently favored one school over the other. Maybe one school might get a run, but then the other school comes back and wins a couple. I know that just recently, I think last year Classical broke a 3 or 4 or 5 year English streak, didn't it?
Yeah, 4 years I think.
Right.
Yeah, the rivalries changed because we just talked about it, the lines. I mean, you could have brothers playing against each other. You could have the kid that lives next door to Lynn English playing at Lynn Classical.
Yeah.
To me, you know, I'm a Lynn English guy. He's a Lynn Classical. I don't think the kids nowadays. You have a transit population in Lynn where kids are moving all the time. I think it's changed a lot.
I think that the intensity of it has changed.
It's changed. Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was probably 8th grade, 9th grade, and you'd go down, and this is when you could look down on the field from the side, from the mound. So you look down on the field, and it'd be you know, English in red and gray, and Classical yellow, white, and green, and there was a lot of hard playing. And then the fans, you couldn't talk, it behooved you not to talk to. If you knew somebody from the English, you wouldn't be talking to them for the week before because you'd say, "You're not going," and then that would start a major argument. So
the other thing, I mean, I went to Ingalls and I went to Easton. You knew when you went to Ingalls Elementary School that you were going to English, unless you wanted to go to Tech or St. Mary's, but that's a whole nother. But you knew you were going to English. And nowadays, these kids are all free agents. They don't know they're going to English until they're in the May of the 8th grade. They might decide, well, my friends are going to Classical, and I'm in English's district, but I want to go there.
And then they change back.
And then, they got the rule now where they can't change and play, so which is good. You had kids playing football at English, and then transferring to Classical and playing basketball at Classical, and then transferring back to English and playing football back at English again the following year. Wow. So they put an end to that, which is good, Yeah, but I'm a traditionalist, and I'm not going to speak for it, but I think he feels the same way. I'd like the line down at Washington Street. You play at Classical, you play at English.
I think it's just makes it a little bit better that
you buy in.
Yeah, exactly. You buy into the
in.
Well, yeah, you're vested to Lynn Classical or English, and you're there. It's not bouncing back and forth, and whatever you want to do.
And I wouldn't even say one's better than the other. One school is better than the other. I think the schools have their positives, and they have their maybe their so-called negatives. But I think that I'm an English guy. He's a Classical guy. You buy into it because you got to go there when we were young kids.
Well, yeah, I mean because it's it's
just school.
I'm West Lynn, so I'm going to Classical, and that was it.
Yeah.
I mean the other thing that came into play was Lynn Tech or St. Mary's. But predominantly Classical was the head of the list when I came out of the junior high system, and it was like, okay, this is where we want to go. This is how we want to help create a winning football program. And I just thought it was a great environment for me.
Yeah.
How has the current MIAA playoff form? Do you think that, on the whole, it is diminished?
Can I talk? Can I go in first?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead first.
When you have teams that have won one game, they're 1-4, and they're in the playoffs. That's a disgrace. Mm-hmm. I think if they change it to you had to have a winning record, I would be okay with that, or even if you were 2-2 at least. Yeah. But when you have teams that in another format that's bad about the format is you have team like Lynn going to play Cambridge when they could go play Salem. They've changed a little this year. Gary's worked really hard. Malay's worked really hard at not going to those places in trying to play schools that you get a little bit of a crowd. We played Cambridge. There were 3 people on the other side. I mean, it just there's no interest.
But it's also kind of diminished the whole significance. Like I can remember covering sports in my era when almost every year some Thanksgiving Day game had postseason implications, and now none of them do.
Yeah, I don't like the current format. I think that they the 6 AB, 1 AB Super Bowls. I just disagree with that. I disagree because I just think that I liked when we played. You had 1, 2, 3 that represented the state, and in that format, you had to really work hard throughout the season. It wasn't a playoff. It was you had to come up through the polls. If you lost, you knew that you were going to be in a bad spot. I mean, I can see some of the things they're trying to do with the current format, but for me, it just doesn't do it.
I'm not big on cutting the league in half either. No. If you beat the 4 teams that are in your
in your section,
you're the league champ. There's no more real true league champ. I mean, you could have a team that's undefeated on one end and a team with 3 or 4 losses on the other end. You're calling them both league champs. I think it.
Well, let's look at it. I mean, before it was what, 1 through
10 teams.
10 teams.
12 now.
Yeah.
Everybody, you played everybody at that point in time. You could be the smallest team, Gloucester. You could be Danvers. Winthrop. But everybody was competitive. And what ultimately happened coming out of North Shore was that each year they had a team going into the Super Bowl, or right in the contention, right in the mix for the statewide title. So you really had a test for who you were playing, the skill of the team that was in the conference, and that helped the conference overall each year.
I think a lot of it comes down to money. I think the MIAA figures the more playoff teams they have, the more games they have, the more money they make. That comes into play too.
Well, I understand that. Yeah. It's just that that format that previous format
was much better.
I think it was better. I mean, because.
Thank you. Last question, and to each of you, how do you feel that your high school football experience has shaped your life after high school?
Ooh.
Well, for me, I think the football experience, the athletic experience, school experience has helped me understand that you get knocked down. Literally, tell Mark that too. Right? Right? Get knocked down, and it helps you learn to compete. I mean, growing up into a young man, and the things that you work through in life is just like that. I mean, you run into great people who help you develop an approach, help you think through the issues that you have. Bill Wise was fantastic, from the point that we met him as 9th graders right through our senior year, even to the day, and talking with him about, what you needed to do, and he was tough. I got suspended for a game and a half for not going to a practice, which today, I talk about it because he said, if we don't get to the Super Bowl, that's on you. And I went, wow. And he held his word. He sat me out, and I didn't play. And then on top of that, you have to explain to all the young kids that are looking up at you, saying, why aren't you playing it? And so that's come a long way. So that I've taken that right through. And then great teachers that help you through class, help you do what you need to do.
Well, it made me become a teacher. Billy Hall was great. He was a lot of fun, but surprisingly, he was an English major, and he was an English major at UNH, and he was very, very, very articulate, and we never skipped practice. He wouldn't allow that stuff. Same thing with Billy Wise, but he had a different approach to us. He kidded with us. He asked us what we were doing all the time. I had Ronnie Bennett as a baseball coach. He was the disciplinarian.
Oh,
right. And I was a baseball player. I was a baseball player playing football. And the teachers at English were always helpful, and it gave me a little background. I said, yeah, maybe I'll become a teacher. And
Coach Bennett came all the way over. His things he was doing came over to class going, ooh, he's tough.
But I got a lot out of Mr. Bennett, because when I went to college, we walked in, and you know how it is when you're in college playing basketball or football. There were people behind you who they were recruiting. You're not always the best guy.
Right.
And you think you're the best guy going in, but you see who's coming in every year. And
every year
Joe told you had to continually work at what you did to get better, and you never were satisfied with how good you were. You're always striving to be better. And that's what I get out of it.
Well, thank you very much, both of you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
It was good seeing Mr. Thurman again.